Njideka, it gives me great pleasure to proceed with the conferral of your degree in remote hooding. Clearly, we are remote. By virtue of the authority delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of the University of the Arts, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I hereby confer upon Njideka Akunyili Crosby the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations, Dr. Crosby.
Thank you, President Njideka, and thanks to the University of the Arts community for this immense honor. Congratulations to the UARTS graduating class of 2020. 16 years ago, at my undergraduate commencement, and at every graduation before or since then, graduates were told that they were about to navigate an uncertain future. That phrase has never been truer than right now. There is no precedent for having an online ceremony due to a global pandemic. Under normal circumstances, the last months leading up to a graduation are a whirlwind, as students try to finish up final projects as well as line up jobs or next steps. Then graduation is kind of fun but bittersweet, and then you're on your way. This year though, I imagine this semester has been especially trying, and that this moment may be downright bewildering for some of you. So I want to commend you for doing the work to get you to this point. I also want to remind you that art schools excel at preparing students to find creative solutions to very complex problems. So as daunting as it must be to graduate right now, you have the tools to navigate this uncertain future. As artists, we reflect on the world we live in. Therefore, we are at the forefront of the cultural response to this momentous period in history. This reflecting upon one's lived experience is central to my painting practice. My mother instilled in me a global worldview and desire to experience the diversity of life beyond Enugu, the small former coal town in the east of Nigeria where I was raised. This desire was first reflected in her sending me, a parochial 11-year-old, to boarding school in Lagos, a sprawling metropolis, and later in entering the whole family for the US green card lottery so that my siblings and I would have bigger goals and outlooks than we could in a Nigeria stifled by military dictatorship. The years I spent in Lagos awakened a desire to experience the diversity of life outside Nigeria. Boarding school was my first taste of a cosmopolitan society. I got to study and live with girls whose ethnicities, religion, socioeconomic class, etc. were vastly different from mine. I also got to experience, in ways that were more intimate than television, life outside the country through the stories and objects brought back by girls who traveled abroad during summer vacations. When I was 16, my family won the visa lottery and I permanently moved to the United States. Living in different countries and cities has proved formative in my work as I use my transcultural experience as a Nigerian and American to examine the multicultural nature of both contemporary African cities and US immigrant life. In creating works that center Black and immigrant experiences, I show counter-arguments against dominant historical and contemporary narratives about who matters and who merits representation. In light of the Trump administration's systematic attack on the place and desirability of immigrants, especially Black and brown immigrants, I have never felt more urgency in my practice. Since I left Enugu, I've lived almost exclusively in cosmopolitan cities or spaces. As a result, I've interacted with people from different locus points: race, gender, wealth, sexuality, culture, age, religion, etc. And these interactions have enriched both my life and my artwork immensely. As I make decisions in the studio, past discussions with friends, classmates, and teachers replay in my head. The more diverse the source of opinions informing your work, the more well-rounded you can make the work. Surely you've had similar discussions during your time at UARTS that will undergird your practice. I encourage you to complement those conversations with more voices. These voices can come not only from people giving direct feedback on your work, but also from the books you read, the music you listen to, the TV series and movies you watch, etc. I recall a tweet by Vietnamese American novelist Viet Thanh Nguyen that broke down all the books he read last year by the author's gender, country of origin, etc. And it was his way to keep himself accountable that he wasn't just reading works by white men. Difference is a great teacher. The world is complex, and proximity, perhaps right now virtual for the time being, proximity to people from different walks of life broadens your understanding of this complicated space. COVID-19 has heaped uncertainty upon an already complex world. Artists often question the meaningfulness of their work, and that concern is multiplied manyfold now when whole industries and ways of disseminating and experiencing art are disrupted. These are the things I'm thinking about in the studio these days, and I don't have clear answers. What has kept me going is thinking of ideas of works I haven't seen before and trying to fill that void, wanting to experiment to put content into the world that doesn't exist yet. When I struggle to get a good idea for what to do, the voice of my grad school professor plays on repeat in my head. Work begets work. With that in mind, I get to the studio and I work on something basic. And even though those basic pieces rarely see the light of day, that process almost always generates some of my better ideas. Once again, congratulations on graduating. You have my best wishes. I'll leave you with a piece of paradoxical advice. Pursue rigor and work diligently in your practice, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. That actually could end up being very stifling. Even in the best of times, it can take a while after graduating to build momentum in your art practice. Don't rush it. Keep perspective. Prioritize keeping yourself and those around you safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Njideka, for your insightful words.